All right, Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, HaKodash. Double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, starting with the 144,000 and the rest of the men and women and children out of the 12 tribes whom Yahweh Bashem El Shai will have mercy upon. I'm your brother Mata Zabath from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia, reporting again with another impromptu lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem El Shai. And this comes via way of a live I caught once again on Big Bear. All right, for you brothers on TikTok that know, who Big Bear is, which, by the way, disclaimer, just want to put this out first before we start the lesson. So I managed to catch that live because one of the brethren from GMS Columbus, Ohio, the beloved brother Adar Gabar, Salaki, if I mispronounce your name, brother, please forgive me. But the brother had, was attending that particular live on TikTok, feeding, bringing out edification to a Jake who just couldn't understand the whole situation centering around the promises given to Abraham of the nations being blessed through him, but through his seed. All right. And you have a lot of individuals out there, especially in Christianity, that don't understand what does it mean through Abraham, all nations shall be blessed. All right. Which we're going to tackle in this lesson. But nevertheless, the actual host of the live, Big Bear, wanted to give an apology, all right, to all the members of Great Millstone, because prior to attending that live, the last live that we were on with some of the elders that attended that live, he actually lashed out and has some differences with Great Millstone, and said some things out of turns or whatever the case may be. So I just want to put this out there that, that particular individual actually apologized and stuff, which, it's all good. It's cool. We accept the apology. And when I say we, meaning the brothers who were there currently. But at the end of the day, we still have to, try the spirit. We still have to test out the spirit. We don't just accept anyone. All right. So just like all of us, to that individual, you still have, you got to prove through Yahweh Bashem El Shai. You know what I mean? So now, with that being said, let's get into the lesson now. Once again, there was an individual on that live who just could not get the concept of through Abraham, all nations shall be blessed. Now, at face value, when you read the precept given in Genesis pertaining to Abraham, and you read it verbatim, not having to understand it through the context, it's not speaking of the other heathen nations are going to be blessed in him. All right. Now, what I will say is this. We know that in the kingdom, outside of the Edomites, which after they've served the first 1,000 years in servitude, being in slavery under the Israelites, they will be Obadiah 1:18, meaning they will be obliterated off the face of the earth. There will be no more remaining of the house of the Edomites. So if you're an Edomite and your bloodline goes back to that, nation of people, after you serve 1,000 years, okay, that's it for your people. That's scriptural. Now, on the other hand, the other heathen nations, okay, they're going to have the opportunity to live a righteous life under the guide of the Israelites, okay, in the kingdom. And they're going to be governed and ruled, all right, by the 144,000, mainly started with Yahweh Shai, King David, the 12, all right, and the 144,000 on down, all right. But that's a different topic for a different time. So I just had to say that up front. Now, Salakia, so wrote a few precepts down here so we can get some understanding on what this is actually going into. So the first precept we're going to start at is Genesis 22, all right, verses 17 through 18, all right. And this is what was said to Abraham. It says, I'll start at verse 16. It says, and said, by myself have I sworn, saith the Lord Yahweh, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, it was speaking of Isaac, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Now, this is crucial because you read it at face value, and yes, it says, in his seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Christians will take this way out of context and say, well, through Abraham, we all have a chance to be and standing with the Most High, not understanding that the Most High didn't choose all the nations. All right. It was only speaking of Israel. Right. So what does that mean? Well, let's get another precept. Genesis 26:4 says, I'll start at 3. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply, Salakia, as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. All right. So once again, in thy seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. The thing that people are getting caught up on is the part where it says all the nations of the earth be blessed. So they think that it's talking about every single nation of people here on the earth outside of the Israelites will be blessed from Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? So now we're going to go deeper into it by going to the next precept in Genesis 35:11. All right, we'll start at verse 10. It says, and the Most High Yahweh said unto him, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel, or Yasharallah, shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. And here's the point. And the Most High said unto him, I am the, God Almighty, which is Allah Shajah. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. Now you have to understand, he told Jacob that out of him, meaning out of his descendants, it should be a company of nations. All right, let's get a precept. NIV says, and the Most High said to him, Salakia, let's go into the different translation is what I meant to say. NIV translation says, and the Most High said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. This is important to understand, because when it's said in Genesis 22 and also Genesis 26, that in thy seed shall all the nations be blessed, it was talking about Israel, because Israel became a multitude of nations. As he told Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, that out of you, okay, a nation and a community of nations will come from you. Okay, that doesn't mean that everybody is going to be later on considered Israel, because you even have some Christians that think that there's such a thing known as spiritual Israel, which is false. That's not what it's talking about. All right. That's why the Bible says, through thy precepts, I get understanding. Therefore, I hate every false way. So now let's go to the next point. OK, let's go to Acts chapter 3 and verse 25. Acts 3:25. OK, I'll start at verse 22. It says, for Moses truly said unto the fathers. Now we get in the context. A prophet shall the Lord your power raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear in all things whatsoever he shall say unto you. And it shall come to pass that every soul which will not hear that prophet shall be destroyed from among the people. And that prophet was none other than, it was speaking of Yahweh Shai. All right. Verse 24. Yea, and all the prophets from Samuel and those that follow after, as many as have spoken, have likewise foretold of these days. Here's the point. Ye are the children of the prophets. Now, who would the children of the prophets be? The Israelites. All right. Because when you understand, all right, the prophets, they only came out of one nation of people, and that's the nation of Israel. All right. You can back that up in, what's that? I think it's Second Esdras, the first chapter from verse 40 on down. It says, ye are the children of the prophets and of the covenant which the Most High made with our fathers. So right there, it says, in of the covenant which the Most High made with our fathers, possessive pronoun. The Lord only made a covenant with the Israelites. All right. So you have to establish the context of who it's talking about or who is actually speaking to. Saying unto Abraham, and in thy seed shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed. Now, we have a different word here because in the Old Testament, it said all the nations of the earth be blessed. But here in the New Testament, it says, and all the kindreds of the earth be blessed. Now, by them using the word kindreds, is it speaking about every nation outside of Israel is going to be blessed on the earth? Absolutely not. And how can we substantiate that? Well, we're going to go into the word kindreds in the Greek here. We're going to pull out this word and get some more clarity. Now you have the Greek word here.
Strong's G 3965. Patria. Patria.
Okay, patria. Now, outline biblical usage clearly says lineage running back to some progenitor, ancestry, a nation or tribe, a group of families, all those who in a given people lay claim to a common origin. Letter B says the Israelites, which distributed into 12 tribes, descended from the 12 sons of Jacob. These were divided, divided to families, which were divided to houses. Because we read in Genesis, the 35th chapter, it was said to Jacob that within his descendants, a nation will become a community of nations. Israel is not just one nation. Israel has become a multitude of different nations. And how can we prove that further? Let's go to the account between Ephraim and his brother Manasseh in Genesis, the 48th chapter. Now, it was said to Ephraim, all right, we'll start at verse 17. Now, watch the account that was given to Joseph. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people. You see that? And he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. So that is one example of one tribe, be that of Ephraim, became a multitude of nations. Okay, and that was just the tribe of Ephraim. So imagine the other 11 tribes. Okay, that's why that's the importance of going into your words. So when it was being broken down in Acts, the 3rd chapter, when he said to them, look, you're the children of the prophets, and it was said to your forefather Abraham that in thy seed shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed. It was speaking of the nation of Israel. Right? Now, how can we prove this further? Well, when you go to Psalms chapter 33 and verse 12, it says what? Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord Yahweh, and the people whom he have chosen for his own inheritance. So does that mean that every other nation outside of Israel was blessed? No, because the Lord didn't choose them. Now you have to put it together. Those nations that shall be blessed in the earth was speaking about the Israelites. Because Yahweh said he is the God. Let's get that in Amos 3. And I'm going to start at verse 1. The point is at verse 2. It says, hear this word that Yahweh have spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all the families of the earth, right? Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquity. So how can the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Awashai, bless the other heathen nations, okay, when he just said that out of all the families in the earth, he only knew one particular nation, and that was the nation of Israel, which became a multitude of nations within itself, going back to what the Lord told Abraham. You see? So blessed is that nation whose power, whose God is Yahweh. That's the only nation that's blessed. So it will only make sense through process of elimination that the nations that shall be blessed on the earth is the Israelites, who became a multitude of nations. Let's get Romans. All right. Hopefully this is making sense. All right. If it's not, that means it's going way over your head. Romans 4:16. Therefore, it is of faith that it might be by grace, to the end the promise might be sure to all the seed, singular, not plural. Let me read that part again. Therefore, it is of faith that it might be by grace, to the end the promise might be sure to all the seed, singular, not to that only which is of the law, but to that also which is of faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. It was speaking to Israel. Now, why did it say not to that only which is of the law? It was speaking about the Jews who kept the circumcision, but to that also which is of faith of Abraham, talking about to those Gentiles who were called Gentiles, which was really speaking about the Israelite foreigners. Because the next precept we got to get is Galatians 3, verses 16 and verse 19. It says, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. See that? He saith not into seeds as of many, right? Because you have many people think that Abraham is the father, not only Israel, but also those who are not Israelites that can come in to the fold and be grafted back in. No, that's not what it's talking about. It clearly told you to his seed, starting with Isaac, which was passed down to Jacob. Jacob imparted that blessing to his 12 sons, and after their descendants, the Israelites that became a multitude of nations. Hence, the nations shall be blessed in all the earth. Speaking of the Israelites. It's very simple. Let me read this again. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not into seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Hamashiach. Right? Because if you can receive it, Yahweh Shai was Isaac, right, in a regeneration, reincarnation. And nevertheless, let's drop down to verse 19. It says, wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed shall come to whom the promise was made, and it was ordained by angels in the hand of the mediator. So it's telling you right there that promise of faith, okay, that was given by grace, going back to Romans 4:16. All right, let's read it again. That promise of faith. All right. It says, therefore, it is of faith that it might be by grace, to the end the promise might be sure to all the seed, singular. This is very easy to comprehend if the Spirit, all right, is, pretty much resting with you to pick it up, because everybody's not meant to get it. Okay. Once again, those nations is speaking of the nation of Israel that became a multitude of nations that was going to be blessed, started with Abraham. So to finish this off, because he also said in Alive that Abraham wasn't an Israelite, which is true, but you still had the lineage of the sons of God, which not only consists of Israel, but also it doesn't just start with Abraham. It actually goes back to when you get Luke, the 3rd chapter, and you follow the lineage. All right, let's get Luke chapter 3, and you follow the lineage of Yahweh Shai. Okay, you can, you know what? Let's get Matthew. That's a better one. Let's get Matthew 1. It says, the book of the generation of Yahweh Shai, the son of David, the son of Abraham. See that? Because he was King Solomon and he was Isaac. Notice verse 2 says, Abraham begot Isaac. All right, Isaac begot Jacob on down all the way until the birth of Yahweh Shai in verse 16. But when you jump to Luke, the 3rd chapter, all right, and this is on Mary's side, her father paternal lineage. When you go all the way down, and you start at verse 34, Luke 3 and 34, which was the son of Jacob, which was the son of Isaac, which was the son of Abraham, right? You have to follow the lineage. It's all about the paternal bloodline, which goes back through the seed line of your father, pursuant to Numbers 1 and 18. So it says, which was the son of Abraham, which was the son of Thera, which was the son of Nahor, which was the son of Sirach, which was the son of Ragah, which was the son of Phelek, which was the son of Eber. All right, that's where you get Hebrew from, or Eber or Ibar, which was the son of Salah, which is the son of Canaan, which was the son of Arphaxad, which was the son of Shem. See that? Which was the son of Noah, which was the son of Lamech, which was the son of Methuselah, which was the son of Enoch, which was the son of Jared, which was the son of Malel, which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. Before they were called Israelites, they were known as the sons of God, going all the way back to Adam. So when you said that Abraham wasn't an Israelite, yeah, because it wasn't until when Jacob came on the scene through his father's bloodline. He was still, the Israelites were still a part of that bloodline, which was known as the sons of God. That's why when after the flood, because the only person to survive the flood from the lineage of Seth, who was known as the sons of God, was Noah. This is the part that he didn't understand and alive, right? And so through Noah's 3 sons, okay, only one of them was known as, let's get for an example, Genesis 9:27 or 26. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. What does verse 26 says? And he said, blessed be the Lord Yahweh, thy power of Shem. And Canaan shall be a servant. And didn't say, blessed be Yahweh, the power of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. No. Because Noah was a part of the lineage. So you would think, okay, well, Noah had 3 sons. Why can't all 3 of his sons also be a part of the sons of God? Because the Lord chose a particular bloodline, and the bloodline continued through Shem. It didn't continue through Ham and Japheth, the other 2 brothers. That's why I said, blessed be Yahweh, thy power of Shem. Ham and Japheth are excluded from that. This is why you have to follow the bloodline. And so after the flood, okay, who did the Lord go after? Abraham, because Abraham goes back to Shem, which goes back to Seth. And then he raised up Abraham and said, look, through your seed, starting with Isaac, all right, because he did the same thing. Did not Abraham have Ishmael? Ishmael was his firstborn son. But the Lord said, nah, I'm going to give him a blessing, but he's not going to get the blessing. Right? I'm going to put the blessing in your seed, be that of Isaac. All right, let's get that in Romans and then we'll close out. Romans 9. All right, and 6, not as though the word of power have taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. All right, because the Lord has an elect. Okay, you, for instance, you have a situation where you have Israelites that know that they're Israelites, but they're not of the Israel of the Most High, because the Most High doesn't want them. They're not part of the elect. Verse 7, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children. Just like with Noah, Ham and Japheth wasn't considered. That's why we read Genesis 9:27. Yahweh was the God of Shem, not of Ham and Japheth. So the same rule applies with Abraham because he had 8 children. He had Ishmael, Isaac, and 6 more sons with Keturah. But it just told you here in verse 7, neither, because they are the seed of Abraham, are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. The Lord was only dealing with particular men from the bloodline. It says that is that they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of power, but the children of the promise are counted for the seed. See that? All the way down to Isaac having his 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, and who was called? Jacob. Esau didn't get the blessing, even though he comes from that paternal lineage, but it was called through Isaac. And this is why you see, when you get caught up on, and in Abraham shall all this thy nations be blessed, you got to understand what it's talking about. You got to follow the lineage. Blessed be the nation whose God is Yahweh. I was speaking of Israel. All the nations are not blessed because the Lord only knew the nation of Israel out of all the families of the earth. Amos 3:2. We've proven that. Okay. So, I'm going to end it there. All right. This lesson ain't got to be too long, but hopefully the point is made. And I just wanted to do a quick, lesson based off that TikTok live, man. Hopefully that brother gets some understanding as he continues to further his study. So with that, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David. And so on to the next, Lord's will. Shalom.